Hello HEMA friends and welcome to this new video. Today I want to share with you an overview of the Fiore longsword system. I will briefly scratch the surface with this video, but I will give you the tools necessary to read through my interpretation of the system. If you want to see the system explained step by step, play by play, you can simply join my Patreon. Every patron from the $5 tiers and above has access to my full interpretation of the Fiore system. It's a huge project with more than 5 hours and a half of videos on the subject and another hour to complete the project, scheduled to be shot in the next 3 months. By the way, I am going to change the tiers pricing in a month or two from now, following the changes in the cost of living. So consider joining now, as I will maintain the pricing to who had been following me before this change. Notice that HEMA and YouTube with it are my main and only job, so if you decide to support me, you're going to help me a lot. Very good, so let's dive into the Fiore system. Now, the first thing that you have to read and understand are of course the poste di spada and the blows, which are described at the beginning of the Largo section. My poste series is an ongoing project which I'm going to finish soon. It is free to watch, so you can find it linked above if you want to understand more about this subject. Poste and the blows together should be considered a movement diagram, with poste being starting, transitioning and ending position of every technique. The hints that you find explained into the various glossa of the poste are generally describing this kind of situations, without necessarily specifying if the action ends, starts or passes from there. Here, fighting experience is crucial to understand where to place everything in a realistic and useful way. But once you have this understanding, which alone is already enough to understand how to fight in a basic, while functional way, it is time to give a look to the actual plays. Of all the various plays, the incrociare in punta di spada is the most important one. It is the first one and the most important one. Fiore gives us a simple advice which, if properly grasped, makes us able to deal with dozens and dozens of different situations. The main message delivered is simple: thrust on the inside, cut on the outside. This has to be related to the crossing itself, which is a crossing at the tip of the sword, so on the weak part of the blade. Now, Fiore didn't wrote this anywhere, but with some reasoning and fencing experience, it is clear that crossing in punta doesn't refer to a weak-on-weak bind only. As soon as the wick of one of the blade instead is crossed, or is going to be crossed, with another part of the other blade, this play is accessible and gives you useful advices in relation to what to do and when. It doesn't matter if it is a direct attack from a binding condition, a feint, a parry post or whatever, the pattern of the action still applies. So it is a lesson on strong and weak, on various crossing geometries that bring to these conditions, and on the most comfortable attacks to land both on the inside and on the outside line while exploiting these conditions. The distance at which the play happen may greatly vary, but one thing is sure: the plays in punta starts in a largo condition and end in a largo condition. In fact, the master of crossing at the tip has only a student which fights in largo. Once the lesson is learned, the pattern can be applied to other attacks too, as soon as the logic behind the play fits the case. So, in short, the crossing in punta as well as the crossing at mezza spada are two giant containers of actions, all related to the same application concept, which is meant to simplify the understanding of fighting and to make it relatable to a few concepts only. The crossing at mezza spada, so at the middle of the blade, together with the subsequent 3 students, follow the same logic we have seen before, but this time the crossing with which this play deals with are fewer. Either the swords are crossed medio on medio, so middle on middle, or one of the two middles is crossed with the forte of another blade. Again, both fencers are accessing these conditions as soon as one of these crossing happens, as it is for the crossing in punta. Here we have again various advices on how to deal with the various crossings. This time we have a cut to the ends and a thrust landed by moving offline. The weak condition is still there, but it is slightly less relevant if compared to the crossing in punta. So we don't have one weak play for every strong play. In fact, the distances at which this crossing is taking place are shorter, and a weak bind could mean having a sword stuck in the skull, rather than access to another fencing technique. At a certain specific distance, of course. Other distances give you access to a weak option. The most important weak play of mezza spada is delivered in the subsequent page, the gioco del villano. Now, here we enter, to a degree, into another section of the system. The plays are still delivering useful concepts, which can be applied in various cases, but the variety of their application decreases a lot. In fact, the other mezza spada plays can be considered almost stand-alone plays. In fact, Fiore himself wasn't really sure on how to structure this section, as in the Pisani-Dossi version of the manual we see a new maestro here, the third maestro of Largo, which teaches the Gioco del Villano and all the other stand-alone plays. In the end, if we consider the Ghetti a finished product, he decided to put the Villano, the Scambiare, etc. in the mezza spada section, as in the end they start from the same crossing conditions. But it is pretty sure that he had divided them because these plays weren't anymore techniques samples with dozens of applications, mainly teaching principles, but were instead what we generally consider a technique nowadays, so standalone actions to land in specific conditions. Of course, as I mentioned, this is only partially the case, as our Gioco del Villano, together with other niche plays, which can be found only in the Pisani-Dossi, is the main weak play of the crossing at mezza spada. Here we start to see another crucial point of the system being applied. The crossing at mezza spada breaches the distance between largo and the stretto, and so we start to see more and more kicks, sword grabs and then handle grabs, such as the one of the Scambiare, and other nasty things. Whoever crosses at mezza spada is in a kind of limbo. The chance to get back and return to largo is still, at certain distances, possible, while at others the best solution is to get closer and enter stretto. The Scambiare represents precisely this case, an action on tempo taught as a pair riposte for, most probably, safety reasons, gets the fencers at close distance thanks to the nature of the thrusting motion. Here we have our option, either the counter thrust works or we have to go for stretto, because the distance gets tight. The rompere is a parry riposte, especially useful as a secondary parry against someone which is delivering a combination of actions meant to get closer. A slick cavazione which provokes a first failed parry in frontale is an example. In fact, surprise surprise, the glossa of posta frontale tells us that from there you can beat the thrust downward. So it seems that Maestro Fiore had some good ideas in mind, and an overall plan to describe and systematize fighting. A systematization not necessarily easy to read in the 21st century, but still an astonishing work. And what about the punta falsa punta curta, the last two plays? Well, I will talk about it on Patreon a few weeks from now, so maybe you will watch the video there together with my patrons, by joining them. I hope to see you there. Very good people, thanks for watching as always. The link to my Patreon page is in the description, check it out if you want to follow and support me even more. Again, thanks for watching as always, and see you next time.